Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It's good to be back in Doha. First Highness Sheikh Moustafa for honoring us all with her presence today. My special thanks goes to Professor Tariq Ramadan and Professor Jasir Al-Auda, our distinguished speakers and guests, as well as members of the CILE team who made all this possible. Thank you all. Islamic ethical values of freedom, dignity, compassion, justice, and above all, accountability ought to form the bedrock of politics inspired by Islam. Quran sums it up in this way: O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives. Whether one is rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both. So follow not your personal inclination, lest you not be just. Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 135. Reflecting on the importance of accountability in Islam, Umar bin al-Khattab once said, quote, I would be held accountable were a donkey to break its leg in Iraq due to state of its roads. Today, however, the gap between theory and practice seems quite glaring. Would it surprise you, for example, if I told you that more than a quarter of Egyptians now live under the poverty line, and that there are more than 3 million homeless children? Sudan and Afghanistan, both Muslim-majority countries, were worst ranked in the Transparency International's Corruption Index for 2012. And would it surprise you if I told you that we Muslims are fairly quick to condemn West and Israel for their crimes, while we hesitate to condemn crimes when they're committed by Muslims, whether it be in Sudan, Egypt, Syria, Iran, Indonesia, or any other Muslim-majority country? In short, one can argue that the connection between Islamic ethical theory and Muslim-majority countries' practice is fairly weak. One can also argue that in the wake of the Arab uprisings, parties that are now in power who take Islamic reference as their basic principle, despite their rise, situation remains largely the same. For all its economic success, Turkey under the AKP party still suffers from deep income inequality, lack of press freedom, and enjoys close ties with Israel. Hamas, vulnerable and isolated, can do little to free Palestinians from the Israeli yoke, improve education and health services despite wider international recognition. The Nahda movement in Tunisia is also facing a legitimacy crisis following the murder of a leading opposition politician. And one can also argue that Egypt under the Muslim Brotherhood is not that radically different from that of Mubarak, and certainly not yet reflective of Egyptian revolutionaries' hopes. The economy is in bad shape, the corruption is still rife, and the country's policy vis-à-vis Israel remains largely the same. Perhaps most illustrative of these continuities is the fact that amidst economic crisis, Egypt's leadership finds it prudent to buy 140,000 canisters of tear gas worth around $2.5 million. This investment is certainly not meant to provide jobs, student scholarships, alleviate the plight of the poor, or house Cairo's street children. One can argue then that the reference to Islamic ethical principles remains largely rhetorical. The questions I would like to throw at our distinguished speakers are as follows. First, what, if any, ought to be the relationship between Islamic ethics and political practice in Muslim-majority countries? And the second question is, in the light of Arab uprisings, which were inspired by the values of freedom, dignity, compassion, justice, and above all, accountability, is the situation on the ground any different, and how can we make it better? Thank you.